On December 30th, 2025, just as families were preparing for New Year's Eve, police responded to the Seacroft Green shopping centre, where two teenage girls had been assaulted. The suspects, three grown men, aged 20, 38 and 44, and they are suspected to come from the Britannia Hotel, which is the asylum seeker accommodation that local residents have spent 20 weeks begging the government to close. So this was not an unpredictable crime. It's a matter of geography and negligence. The government have effectively created a convergence zone that made this assault highly probable. Essentially, the government took a high-density population of unvetted adult males, men with no work, no schedule, no ties to the community, and placed them in the Britannia Hotel. This facility, just a 5-minute walk from the Seacroft Green shopping centre, which is the main hangout for local teenagers. In criminology, there's something called routine activity theory, and it simply means that if you put potential offenders and vulnerable targets in the same place without protection, crime will happen. It isn't bad luck, it's bad design. The government, in effect, built a trap. They put men nearing middle-aged in the same social space as teenage girls and stripped away any safeguards. The result? Well, a crime reference number. While you were told that the hotels were secure, the suspects were free to walk straight from their taxpayer-funded rooms to the spot where they allegedly attacked local children. The parents of Seacroft thought that their kids were going to the shops, and the state has effectively turned those shops into a hunting ground. The establishment will say we can't criminalise all asylum seekers because of the actions of a few individuals. Well, we're not criminalising people, we're criminalising a policy. When you warehouse idle men in family areas, you create an environment that is ripe for crime. That's a fact. To ignore that risk isn't tolerance, it's child endangerment. And the worst part? The people who pointed this out were not thanked, they were demonised. The parents in Seacroft didn't need a criminology degree to see the danger. They used their eyes for that, and they were treated like villains. So for 5 months before this attack, the residents of Seacroft tried to warn the authorities. The political class, though, they didn't just ignore them, they declared war on them. Starting in August 2025, locals launched protests under the banner Protect Our Kids, and they spent 20 weeks standing outside that hotel. And what was the response from their local MP? Richard Bergen? Well, he didn't listen. He called them far-right hooligans and claimed they were distracted by the super-rich. Just let that sink in. A member of parliament looked at constituents terrified for their daughter's safety and told them they were just pawns in a capitalist conspiracy. He viewed Protect Our Kids as a racist slogan. He prioritised his ideological war against the so-called far-right over the physical safety of the children in his own borough. So Richard Bergen, and the local authorities, they treated the protesters as the threat, not the unvetted men in the hotel. Police were deployed to keep protesters apart, managing the optics rather than the risk. Now, those thugs and racists have been proven 100% correct. The banner said, "Protect our kids," and because the government refused to listen, the kids were not protected. Apologists will claim the protests were hijacked by outsiders to spread division, as Bergen claimed people travelled to Seacroft. Well, the crime happened in Seacroft to Seacroft children. The danger was local. The victims were local. The warnings was local. Blaming outsiders is a coward's way of dodging responsibility. When a 38-year-old and a 44-year-old man from that hotel are allegedly arrested for assaulting teenagers, it proves the protesters weren't spreading hate, they were effectively sharing intelligence, and that intelligence was ignored. They called them racist for predicting exactly what has happened. But the betrayal goes even higher than just the local MP. The Labour government's deployed a strategy of performative empathy to sedate the public while they continue the very policies that led to this assault. So back in September, Keir Starmer sat in front of a camera and said the following.
We have to have control of our borders, and I completely get it. And I'm determined that whether it's people crossing in the first place, whether it's people in asylum hotels, or whether it's returning people, we absolutely have to deal with this. When it comes to the asylum hotels, I want them emptied. I've been really clear about that. I completely understand why people are so concerned about it. The only way to empty them is an orderly, systematic working through of the cases as quickly as possible, and then returning those people who should not be here. I want to see every single asylum hotel closed.
It was a lie. A calculated, focus group lie. While he was saying those words, his government was keeping these hotels, like the Britannia, fully operational because it was cheaper than fixing the system. They prioritised logistics over people's safety. And look at Yvette Cooper. She declared violence against women and girls a national emergency. Yet she's the Home Secretary, responsible for housing the very men who assaulted these girls next door to them. You can't claim to be the protector of women while you're the landlord of their attackers. They'll tell you, of course, that they inherited this mess. Labour were just picking up the pieces and they're working to clear the backlog. Well, they've been in power for, 18 months now? I mean, the inheritance excuse is dead. This is their system now. They chose to keep the Britannia open. They chose to appeal court rulings that would have closed other hotels. This isn't a legacy issue. It is an active choice to gamble with the safety of our communities. Yvette Cooper's national emergency turned out to be a press release, not a policy, and the price for that failure was paid on New Year's Eve in Seacroft. It's effectively a Seacroft Trap that they've created, a system where the state pays £5.77 million a day to house unvetted men in hotel chains across the country, all while you struggle to pay your bills. It's a system where you could be jailed for a Facebook post, but an asylum seeker is left free to roam until he commits an assault. And notice the timing. The authorities sent specialist officers to support the victims after the attack. They're always there to manage the trauma, but never there to prevent it. They're basically ambulance chasers, not guardians. It's long past time that this stopped happening. The solution to this problem is so simple. We just don't have a government with the will to fix it. Or perhaps you think I'm being too harsh. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Either way, thank you for your time.